Hello everybody, thanks for clicking on this episode number 16 in my ongoing series about unpopular philodendrons that deserve some more love and attention, at least in my opinion. They are a little bit like the toy that no kid wants to play with, or even the kid that no other kids want to play with during the play break. So in this video I will talk about why I call these guys unpopular, I will discuss their care needs based on my own experience, and I will also show you what is actually wrong with these two guys and what my options are to resolve the issue that these plants currently have. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now let me start by explaining why I call this philodendron pinnatilobum af unpopular. First of all, you will not be able to put these plants in your shopping basket in your average plant nursery or big box store. But you can put them in your virtual shopping basket since they are not too difficult to find online. Just beware to compare websites before buying because the prices for this plant are currently all over the place. A second reason why I call them unpopular is that not many people seem to talk or post about this specific philodendron. For instance, on YouTube you will hardly find any videos on how to take care of these plants. Now the name of this plant, pinnatilobum, actually means lobed and feather-like, and I guess this refers to the long, narrow, lobed leaves that these plants can develop and that look a bit like feathers when they get their mature form. And this is a picture of what a mature leaf could look like, and indeed, with some imagination, you could say that they look like lobed feathers. And by the way, the abbreviation F in the name of the plant stands for affinis, meaning similar to but yet different from the original plant. Now I bought both plants in July 2021, so they have been under my care for exactly 1 year now. So I'd say I've had more than enough time to figure out these guys, although they do have some issues I will address later on in this video. But as you can see, they are alive, and in the end that's all that matters. And at the time these plants cost me $28 each, but recently I haven't seen them for that low a price, no doubt because of the global inflation we all have to deal with, and that even seems to affect the price of unpopular philodendrons. Okay, now next I want to show you some pictures of both plants when they arrived at my place, so you can compare between how the plants were then and what they look like now, which is 1 year later. This is the first one, and you might notice two things. First of all, they are already potted up, which I always do with my imported plants the same day that they arrive, bare-rooted at my place. So no overthinking, no pampering, no treatment of the roots and putting them in water, etc, etc. I basically put them in my aroid mix immediately, and then I call it a day. And then the second thing you might notice is the fact that these plants actually shipped quite well. They arrived in very good condition and they already had quite a few big leaves, even though the plants were not very tall yet. Okay, now let's talk a bit about the growing habit of this philodendron that's native to Brazil, and you can easily tell that it's a climber. I had to give them a simple stick pretty soon after they arrived, but perhaps I should have given them a moss ball instead, but I'll get back to that a little bit later on in this video. Now, compared to the pictures I showed you from 1 year ago, I think both plants have now more or less doubled in height. And by the way, isn't it amazing that both plants grew almost mathematically exactly to the same height? The explanation is no doubt that they both are in a pot with more or less the same size, and that I put them in a location where they get the same amount of light, temperature and also humidity. Now for light requirements, I'll show you where I keep these plants. This is the first one here that I keep like half a meter away from a growing light that gives it medium indirect light. And next I will show you where I keep the second one, a little bit hidden behind this philodendron painted lady, and this one also gets some medium indirect light from another growing light. Now I have to say that I have to water these plants quite often, but I don't think that means that they are very thirsty plants. It's mainly due to the fact that they are in a rather small pot, which means that they dry out quite quickly. So I'm sure that if they were in a larger pot, they would need much less frequent watering, just like most other philodendrons that you can let dry out almost completely. Now, before I talk about the issue that I have with these plants, just one more fun fact. These plants belong to a section of philodendrons in which we also find the philodendron pedatum and the philodendron squamiferum, which is a bit weird because these two guys here look absolutely nothing like the pedatum or the squamiferum. But anyway, let me explain what the issue is with these plants. And I like to call this issue the policy of the carrot and the stick. I told you earlier that I gave both plants a stick to climb onto, but they gave me also a stick in return, and on top of that they also gave me a carrot at the same time. Now, what do I mean by all this? So first of all, the stick that they gave me is the fact that during the year that I took care of them, they dropped almost all the big leaves that they came with, except for two old big leaves that are also dying off, by the way, on one of the plants. So basically both plants are quite bald looking, especially the bottom part. So why did they punish me by dropping all those big bottom leaves? First, I thought it was because I put them in a rather small pot. But now I think this is not the reason, since they are not root bound and there are no roots coming out of the holes at the bottom of the pots. And also, I have quite a few other philodendrons growing quite happily in a pot with the same size, and some of those are even way bigger than these two here. So it must be something else. Now I'm thinking that perhaps it's because I gave them a stick and not a moss pole. But then again, a lack of moss pole in general is not a cause of leaf loss with philodendrons. So basically, I'm not sure what happened, but I'm sure the plants are trying to tell me that I did something wrong. I just don't know what. And I know that plants get rid of an old leaf from time to time, but not to such an extent that they become this top heavy. But at the same time, they also gave me a carrot by producing lots of beautiful new leaves at the top of the plants. I mean, I think these are really pretty, and even though these leaves are quite small, they kinda scream that the plants are very much alive, and by producing all this new growth, the plants, I think, are telling me, look at the potential we have if you would just treat us right. So what options do I have? First of all, I could give them a moss pole after all, but as I said, I don't think that will change anything. Secondly, I could repot them in a bigger pot to see whether that gives me bigger leaves, but then again, that will not resolve the issue of the baldness at the bottom part of the stems. So finally, I have a third option left, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna propagate these plants. The plant with the two old leaves, I'm gonna cut back right to a point above the second big old leaf to see whether that will give me a new growing point on this plant. At the same time, this will give me the lucky number of 7 stem cuttings with 1 leaf. Some of these cuttings I'll propagate in water and some I will propagate in perlite just to see what works best. And once they are rooted, I will have 7 chances to start over with this philodendron. Now, for the other plant, the one with no old leaves left at all, I think I'm gonna just keep it the way it is now while I propagate the other one. Or I might repot it, perhaps in a bigger pot, to see whether that will give me bigger leaves or not. So that's what I wanted to share with you today about this philodendron pinnatilobum AF. I guess each plant comes with its mysteries and challenges, but that's what makes houseplants such an exciting hobby, because it really is a learning curve that never ends or annoys you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I have a whole army, I think over 100 of other unpopular philodendrons that are patiently waiting to be the star of a next episode in this series. So thanks again for watching. I hope to see you again on my channel soon. Have a good day. Bye bye.